Alright guys, hope you're all keeping safe. Lots of news today from State of the Game with significant changes coming to loot with title update 10.1, along with changes to the Hive, PvP and more. There's actually quite a lot here, so I'm going to jump into this one straight away. Drop a like if you enjoyed this one, subscribe for Division content, and let's begin. As usual guys, I've got my bullet points here and I'm going to go through everything in one fell swoop. So let's begin. We had Hamish, Nikki and Bruce on today's State of the Game. Starting off with the priority alerts, there was a maintenance yesterday. If you want to go and check out the maintenance patch notes, you can go ahead and do that one. They did confirm that the level 30 Iron Horse went live yesterday. There is a raid RPG bug which is currently ongoing but is going to be fixed tomorrow. I've only actually seen updates about this today, and they did say there's no updates on possible sanctions at this point, although I do know that anyone using this raid RPG bug, at least from what I've seen on the Reddit posts, are not going to be banned in any way, shape or form. They are currently looking into investigating the fix for the leaderboards for the raid as well. The Division Global Event Strike is starting next week, July 13th. They confirmed that State of the Game will be back on August 5th, so they're going for their kind of 4-week summer break at this point. And there's a tentative date for TU10.1, and that's July 21st. So there, this is obviously subject to change, but I suspect that we will be getting 10.1 on that day. They said that 10.1 is going to be, a smaller patch to your kind of 10 point or TU10 or TU11. It's not like a big global patch, but adjustments will be made with balance, especially in PvP. That was from Bruce. Nikki said that 10.1 is there to address some immediate things that have come up from TU10 and follow up on some things that needed a two-step approach. So they passed it over to Bruce and he kind of went through some patch notes here, which we're going to go over. So they said that one thing that's been plaguing the community a lot recently is the loadout swapping. Now that's going to be fixed with 10.1. You'll be able to swap your loadout if your skill is on cooldown. They wanted to address one skill as well that was particularly egregious, and that was the Revive Hive. There's a big change coming with this. What they're going to do is they're going to reduce the number of charges at the base skill tier 0, and they're going to reduce it from 4 down to 1 charge. The cooldown will be reduced from 240 seconds to 180 seconds, and they said this should significantly alleviate the issues where you'd have to wait for 4 charges, so somewhere up of 16 minutes or something stupid, and you'd only have to wait for the 1 charge, which is going to be down to 3 minutes. They said this is an undeniable nerf to groups where you have no skill tiers, but they always found it odd to have no skill tiers and be able to revive a whole squad. So that's a significant change. They said that you'll be able to gain 1 charge per skill tier. So if you have 6 skill tiers, you can still revive 7 people. Moving on, a Foundry Bulwark change has come in. They said it's a very strong set, so they don't want to make any really significant changes. But they said that the free piece is too generous for keeping you alive. The 2 and 3 piece bonuses on all gear is like a roadmap of how you should use the build. And with Foundry, what they want to do is reinforce it being used with a shield. So they want to reduce the effectiveness of the set without the 4-piece bonus. So what they're doing is they're reducing the armor regen per second from 3%, and they're going to be reducing it down to 1%. But with the 3-piece, what they're going to do is actually increase the shield health by 50%. So that's going to be added to the 3-piece. They feel this will be more fair and balanced because it goes back to the identity of the gear set and the interaction between you and the shield, not just you being tanky without a shield at all. The forged named holster is being changed as well. On live it gives you 10% shield health, but they've fixed the math and it will increase shield health by 50%, which is comparable to the Motherly Love gloves. Forged is more powerful than Motherly Love though at low skill tiers, and Motherly Love is stronger at higher skill tiers. PvP balance, so pretty much anything from now in, unless I say so, is PvP. There's only 2 changes here that I can see. Assault rifles, they're going to be getting a 9% increase in their damage in 10.1. They said that they overcompensated with their reduction in damage with TU10, so they're going to give them a bit more. And they said that if you're using them at optimal range between SMG and rifle range, they should be more powerful and they should sit nicely in there. The Firestarter Chem Launcher explosion damage is being reduced by 50%. What they said is there's no way to rationally justify its damage. It ignores cover and it ignores walls. It had too many things going for it. You can negate most of the burn effect with hazard protection there, but there was actually no way to negate the explosion damage, so that's why the nerf has come in there. For PvP and PvE, this is a huge change, guys. They're actually doing something with the booster hive. On live, the booster hive actually increases weapon damage, weapon handling, and melee damage by 10%, and that it can actually go up to 16% at 6 skill tiers. The booster hive is going through another identity change with 10.1 though. They're going to lose the weapon damage buff, and instead they're going to put in hazard protection. At base, it's going to have 20% hazard protection, weapon handling, and melee for all of those. At 6 skill tiers, it will be 60% for those. So it will give you immunity, it will not give you immunity or cleanse, but it should give the booster hive more of a place in the game. So if you were to put on, say, 10% hazard protection mods with skill tier 6, you are going to get 90% hazard protection. You'll also get 60% weapon handling, which is a huge difference, stability, accuracy, and reload speed. And what they said is if you are at skill tier 6 and you are getting that 60% weapon handling, it's roughly going to be the equivalent of 10 to 15% DPS due to the reload speed buff. There is also minor changes coming to the Hive across the board, and more of those will be included in the next patch notes, but they did say that the Hive drone flight speed will be increased for every skill tier across all of those as well. They then went on to talk about the fire chem launcher in PvP. They said it's popular, but they hope that with this nerf, players will look at other skills for their burst damage. The sticky bomb launcher does a lot of damage and has actually been living in the shadow of the fire chem launcher for burst damage, so they're hoping people will move on to other things. The striker drone damage is receiving a damage buff by 38% in PvP only. The turret, they said, is fine, but the striker drone was just not quite there. However, they wanted to find the right balance between having something that was quite hard to shoot, i.e. the striker drone, which kind of moves around, and the damage it outputs. What they've done is they are making some changes to deployed skills and their health. So all deployed skills will take 4 times more damage. So it's going to be much easier to take them down in PvP. Skill users should have more options, but also this gives players options as well who are combating these skills. Another hot topic they wanted to address was the Riot foam chem launcher. This is something that's come up a lot recently. What they hope is that the booster hive will help with it. What they said is that the foam has a mechanic that allows you to get out of it in 1 second. The base duration of Riot foam in PvP is 3 seconds, but you can break out of it in 1 second. It's still being looked into because they understand it's frustrating to be snared and kind of stuck in position, but they want skills to be viable and not nerfed into the ground. And they like it because it's a counter to the chicken dancing, and if they removed it, people would start saying the chicken dance meta sucks. So it's just trying to find the right balance between making sure it's viable but not overpowered. Question was asked, are any changes coming to Headhunter, the talent? No, there are no changes, so that's good news. And then Nikki moved on to some PowerPoint stuff. Nikki, with TU10, wanted to address loot and make it more generous, but not everything was done entirely. And what I'm going to do, guys, is I'm going to insert the clip from State of the Game here because it's quite in depth and I'd rather you guys just see it first hand.
Loot power distribution, when is this coming? Just so people understand.
So this is what we're going to talk about is how it is in TU10 now, how it was before TU10, and what we're going to do for 10.1.
All right,
so let's start off with the first slide, which is TU10. So on the horizontal axis, we have loot power, like the average rolls of your items. And then on the vertical axis, we have the chance of that item dropping at that power. And as you can see here, we have in this example, I've said it always rolls between a minimum of 50% and a maximum of 100%. But as you can see, this curve means that the lowest power has the highest chance of happening. And that is something that we wanted to address. So instead of using this curve, we changed how this is calculated to normal distribution, which gives you a nice little bell curve. And this is how it now works in TU10. So as you can see, there's a little area on the left, and then a bump, and then a valley. And if you go to the next slide, you can see here that what we tried to do was the green area. making stuff on average better. And that comes at the expense of the yellow area, which makes lower drops less frequent. But we kind of kept the minimum power and also the chance of maximum power the same, which results in this red area. And that is, of course, as you can see, noticeably lower than what it was before. So what the community is saying is like, yes, I'm getting better drops overall on average, which is the green area. But then there's also a part of the community who have kind of, passed that part of like average items and are in that second half of the chart here and really need the most powerful items to improve their build. And they're also feeling what is in this chart, and that's the red area.
Yeah, and this is what... Again, we're talking about TU10 right now, just to remind you.
Yeah, this is what is in the game right now. So this is what changed compared to before. And obviously, we do not want this red area to be this big. It's also even a bit bigger in World Tier 5 currently, because the old system used kind of different interpretations of our setup for world tiers and for level 40. And that is now, with this system, that's much more aligned. But it is too big, that red area. So what we're going to do, if you go to the next slide, is we're going to increase the minimums so that you basically filter out more on the lower end completely. And we're also going to raise the chance of a maximum power item. And that will differ from, from difficulty to difficulty. But for argument's sake, you can go to the next slide. And this is kind of the result that will lead to. So the yellow area is, again, the stuff that will just not happen at all anymore. That's just gone because we raised the minimum. Then we still have the green area of, the chances happening there. And the red area is much smaller. And it's still okay to have a little bit of that red area as long as it's compensated on the right of that red area, which means a higher chance for the most powerful items. And that's a change that we're going to do in 10.1.
So TLDR, more max rolls, less min rolls.
That's what it's going to come down to, yeah. So the overall average was increased in TU10, but not to the degree that we wanted it to. So now we're making another adjustments to kind of get to the step that we actually wanted to make completely.
Alright, so the devs confirm that they need to be more generous with god rolls and double god rolls. You'll see noticeable differences in heroic and legendary, especially when these changes come into effect. Quite possibly there will be a small change to challenging as well. They then talked about rainbow rolls. They said that, and as they said last week, the rainbow rolls, how they work, is not part of the system that they can make changes on, but they are making changes so they can have control over that aspect of the game, so they can have a look at ways they might want to improve the system. They won't make it for TU10.1, but there should be something in place for TU11, and there'll be more news on that, I presume, in the near future. Cache changes. They're actually going to bump up the tiers for caches. So the field proficiency in the DZ caches will now scale with heroic, and the clan caches are actually going to scale with legendary loot. So that's pretty cool. That's up from heroic, and I'm really, really happy about those changes. They said as well that a question was asked about loot changes and how they're going to apply to the Dark Zone. They said that loot is currently on challenging in the Dark Zone, so the loot changes coming with TU10.1 will have some impact on those loot, but it won't be as big as heroic or legendary PvE activities. The Dark Zone is something they are currently looking into a lot due to reports of issues with DZ loot quality. Changes are going to be made to that in future title updates. Also, another question, annoying experience of getting exotics you are not farming for. So the biggest one is legendary and wanting to get the bighorn, but suddenly the boss drops and it's not the bighorn, it's another exotic. There's a change coming. What they're going to do is move the random extra drop exotics off of the boss loot and reward them in an exotic cache on completion. So if you do see an exotic drop from a boss, then it will be the one that you want. You are going to see less exotic loot piles, of course, but it outweighs the frustration of that drop not being what you're farming for. The rifle ammo capacity buff that didn't make it into TU10 is going to make it into TU10.1. They went on to talk about the Hollywood Global event. I've actually been playing it on difficulty, normal difficulty, just to get through it. You're probably seeing it in the gameplay here, and I'll probably do a video on this in the future. It's not my favorite global event, but it's not my least favorite. Moving on then to the Phoenix Down global event, Phoenix Down Apparel event starting July 14th. So what they did is they included some images of what you're going to be able to get. So the first one you've got is Agent Anne, which, as you can see, has a sleeveless hoodie. It's pretty cool. Agent Garcia, which appears to be kind of more kind of standard military. We've got Agent Hoopster as well. And then lastly, we've got Agent Sutton. I think my favorite is either Agent Sutton or Agent Anne for the hoodie. Although these this apparel event, what we're getting here isn't quite as good as what we've seen previously, in my opinion. Not to really put a negative downer on it, but that's just how I feel. And of course, there's a new mask coming with the Apparel event, which you can see in the live game as well, called Badlands. And the way you earn keys is leveling up your shade levels. For every 4 levels you get a key, or you can purchase them with premium credits. There will be a double XP week as well from July 14th with the Lunar Manhunt as well. And they went on to show the Lunar League and the rewards of that. And that was the end of the stream. But that's it for today's video, guys. Hopefully you did enjoy this one. I may do a kind of discussion video on this for Friday, but I do have some other video ideas. So if you do want to see more Division content, make sure you're subscribed. And that way you can turn on notifications. Until the next one, Epic out.